One of the first lessons taught by Father Marin was don't listen to it. Never listen to it. Don't engage it in conversation because, how they are. Plus, it's not going to probably not going to be helpful. That's what I'm guessing. I just saw the most ridiculous thing. And I will. I rebuke it. I rebuke the kingdom marriage thing. I'm not married to anything in the darkness. We're not partnered with the darkness in that way. And if anything in the darkness had been serving any purpose for us, then we're letting that go, of course, because we've been trying to get rid of it for a long time because, hey, we're not marrying the darkness. We didn't ask for your contribution. Plus, we already paid for everything. And remember the assassination? Yeah, right. So, yeah, that was crazy to see that, that they're still talking kingdom spouses. And it would be it's going to be super love and great, and they're going to be the old person that you fell in love with, and all, and they'll be like that in all the ways that you loved them, and all this. And I'm thinking, no, I never had any of that. What are they talking about? It's like some kind of super delusion or something. Like if they tell their story that somehow it'll manifest, somehow. And there's not anyone I can think of like that. Not anyone. I mean, I had some pretty happy, satisfying relationships and stuff like that, in a lot of different ways. But then, there was always that we're just a bunch of actors on the stage thing, it seems like. Which leads me to the other video I watched of what appears to be a young lady who may be running some severe filters. And I've watched them from time to time, but they do that tarot thing an awful lot. So that sort of, it's like whatever, because I know that's just a lie anyway. And if you have a real story to tell, then tell it. And because manipulation is manipulation, and boy, it's real obvious, So anyway. It was one of those things where, what was she saying? Oh, you're becoming famous. And there was the warning. And I thought, well, now that is interesting. That anyone would be warning me of such a thing. Whenever I've already talked about that. And about the fact that, becoming a worldwide famous celebrity had never been my goal. It had never been a dream or a fantasy of mine either. And she went on to say about how, whenever you achieve such a thing and you get, famous and all that stuff, then it's not all it's cracked up to be. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, and she said, it's like the people, that know you don't really know you, but only your work. What you're famous for, perhaps your songs or your performance art, your acting or this or that, right? Or just for being famous, they see you everywhere, who knows? And so you end up being sort of like an animal in a cage. You're the zoo exhibit. Or I think it's in a Pink Floyd song, isn't it? Where you're trading hot ashes for trees and, this or that. Well, I'm not. It's what it says. It sounds like, it is a paradoxical thing for me because over the last 20 years, it was made very, 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 very apparent that what I wanted was just not available in any shape or form, and that if I did get anything at all like something I'd wanted, it would be the wrong version of it, the darkness. But And all these things that I ever thought was important aren't. And all the people I thought that were important, they're not. And the life that I would have had wasn't important. That was the joke, you know. I'm just trying to have a life here. I've seen people who are real celebrities, you know, because they're on TV all the time and stuff like that, mentioned and so on the TV and in print, say the same thing, just trying to have a life. And, you know, then I think about Elton and his thing, you know, how he's not one of those who can easily hide. That is one of the best songs ever, you know. So the question was, you know, because they're saying once you get to that point and when we're talking about super famous, we're talking about super famous. We're talking about Taylor Swift famous, which has unnaturally been made famous, more famous, and had packed bigger, supposedly this story goes, has packed bigger amounts of people into stadiums than even the Beatles or the Stones or Zeppelin or any of the greats, the legends of rock and roll. And of course, you know, it's because of a lot of how the media works these days and the spells and charms that are inherent to the works and the advertisements as well and every promotion, because that's all propaganda, isn't it? So people love the persona and what they imagine the person to be. You know, whenever you look at any of the stars that seem to be like nice people, and they're smiling, and they seem to be jovial, you imagine and hope, if you've liked their work and have been charmed by their presence in some way, that they are truly like that in real life. And the reason why is because it's a lot easier to like them, if not even love them, you know? And she was talking about how this is, you know, one of these super famous things that what you'll want at that point is the white picket fence. In other words, the domestic bliss of the Ten of Cups. Which, you know, it's a nice piece of work. It's a nice piece of art. And it represents, if you really do truly know the card, it's not just material blessings. It's very much spiritual blessings that with the promise of even more is coming, much, much more, that little house there that they're looking at is going to become a castle. And they see generations continuing on. And I'm thinking, oh, blah, dee, oh, blah, da, no, oh, no, get away. No, I mean, there's mechanisms and there's industries and there's farms, but we got to make sure that things like this stuff don't ever happen again. So here's the deal. Was I ever allowed to have a life? Okay, how many people have I been? How many different souls and spirits have known me intimately? Because there's no greater intimacy, I guess, than for a soul to come and live with you in your vessel. Now, is there? How many of those do I know? How many of those are famous? How many sing things like they're waiting on the sun? It's not see, I'm looking at it, remember, I'm the one that never dreamed of fame. Fortune, yes. Industry, yes. Large amounts of money, yes. My little things operating, all my little wheels moving, where people come in one side gray and come out the other side white or something like that, you know? Like, that's why Cornell was wanting to cut the wooden Jesus in on 20% of his sin or something like that. I don't know exactly. But there's an industry to it. There's a mechanism to it. God has a farm that's running. And he would like to lose none. He's the kind that would like to change some of the tares into, you see what I'm saying? Before the harvest, You'd like to change them, say they weren't tares, but instead they were wheat. You know. But, so, in my fame, do you think I'll mention the Lord above, or the difference between night and day, the light and darkness, life and death? Is there a possibility you think I might? I just may. I don't know. But, there's lots of indications that people have been expecting there to be a morning after. And that it would show up, and it would not just rise and fall and rise and fall and rise, but it would rise and then continue to rise and then rise all the way up to where it's supposed to go. Right up high up there in the sky. And everybody looks at it and goes, well, I guess that is that one lonely star, as Madonna did say. And as a very nice young lady I knew pointed out. And suddenly I remember, to go completely off subject, from yesterday, the people that were around, and someone showed up, and I think she's shown up at least once before, if not twice. And if she has shown up, and this was the third time yesterday, if it's the same one, then she first showed up down there at the beach. And then the next time I saw her, she stopped as she walked through a parking lot and looked left, and she looked right, and I think she might have looked at me just for like a half second, but maybe not directly, but it was somebody I was like thinking, I'd like to know what their eyes look like up close. And so, way across the parking lot, football field length away, I see this car come flying in black, of course, why not? And zips in and parks. And I'm thinking, what the heck? And they throw open the door, and they're kicking their leg out, and they're looking right over at us. And I'm thinking, are you looking at me? Because I'm looking at you. And they got out, and they took off towards the store. And, I was supposed to be probably getting up there anyway, and went up around through the parking lot and over and around, and here they were come walking up, hiding their face, like, what's that about anyway? I don't know, was that Michael I saw the other day? I don't know, or was it Kevin? I keep on thinking it was that one guy, was it one black guy that they all think's crazy? So, if fame were to come, it'd be like, wow, you mean I'm going to get paid and get some of the upsides of fame? Since I've had the downsides of it for a very, very long time. And why can't I have domestic bliss and worldwide fame? Why not? I mean, when you think about how sequestered we've been throughout our entire life, as though we've been kept in a prison cell, right? Then even if we were given the money to have a nice place and stuff, we're still camping out basically in the same spots. Why? Because you're crazy famous. And you can't go just anywhere because, why? They're all going to go, hey, aren't you that? And you're like, yep. I don't know. I wouldn't hate it. Because what would I be famous for other than, talking about, hey, you be happy, go the way of the day. Let's sing some songs. It'll be okay. Yeah. God, can you believe the crazy woman over there talking about kingdom spouses and all that kind of stuff? It's like, come on. We don't need a handler. No, we don't need anything like that. And they said, whether you were reconciling or if this is someone brand new. And I do believe that, yeah, there's lots of attractive young ladies out there. I've seen quite a few, around here in this area. And they were, just what they are, attractive. They have, they're put together in the right ways, the way I look at it. But, again, we had this other work to do that does not include being diluted by something of the darkness. We're not going to be split. We're not going to be splitting our forces like that. It's just not, Do I need someone to stand beside me? Yeah, it's light. The light is with me, and I really do have to trust in that. And what I've prayed, one of the biggest concerns I've ever had was, that we'd ever lose the light. And they say there's no way. That we'll never do anything that's going to cause us to lose the light or to go in the wrong direction. In other words, we're not going to be going across the red line into the black. We're not going to go further into darkness. But as far as being isolated from your fellow man and still being able to be happy and contented in a smaller environment and not able to travel very far or to be out too much in public, well, that's been, I've been trained for that, haven't I? So, as far as fame goes, well, I look at it as, we'd have to be putting it to good use for the kingdom. And no, that doesn't include anything with the damn darkness. We're not here to benefit darkness in any way, shape, or form, nor to profit them, or to grow them, or any other thing. The only thing that we'd ever do regarding darkness is provide them an opportunity to eat, perhaps. But more than likely, it would be conversion. That's about it. That's all we'd be interested in, is conversion. And there's other purposes that you can contract with some of these, and they're not all, like again I said, some of them are just on the other side of the fence, and they need to get it together and sign their name on the dotted line that they'll do 1,000 years before the master, whatever, and go from black to gray, and then from gray to something better, and then lighter and lighter. But in any case, this whole thing about normal life, being like the Ten of Cups, domestic bliss type thing, husband and wife. Again, I don't want someone to argue with. Now I've become a chauvinist. I'm a male chauvinist, I do believe right now, because I've been programmed to be. Because I do love the Father, and I think my masculinity is one of my most redeeming values, or attributes, I should say. Because it does make me more analytical. It keeps me above my emotions, which are valuable. And there's no reason to discount emotions as something evil. And freedom. Yeah, she was equating normal life with domesticity. And of course, the question is, what's normal? Well, it's what's standard. Standard and normal are pretty much synonymous. But then she was equating fame with being wild and free. Well, my freedom isn't actually about being wild. My freedom is probably being unavailable in all ways, energetically and spiritually, and probably physically too, to all that is evil. And of the darkness is the darkness, the dead, the evil dead, all their bad energies, to be free of that. Just like in that Rock Hudson movie about about the Martians or something, where they were as though they were in complete different worlds. One could pass through the other, like they were ghosts to each other. Now, perhaps I can be, for a short term, partner with someone with leopard print, perhaps, but it wouldn't be anything black magic. Certainly wouldn't be anything hateful of me. That'd be silly. And of course, I'm sure it'd be short term probably too. So that whole romance thing is silly. It's like, oh, you mean you're finally rising up? It's starting to feel like we're starting to actually get there. And so let's continue up. Let us continue up, guys. I don't know why, but it feels like I got some part of my voice is now sharp. I'd like to get rid of that. I think that was something that was done to us. Let's see. Yeah, I don't equate freedom with being wild. It's not that's not the definition. The definition of freedom for me is probably being a lot closer to the light and having more of it, and being as I would, which would be closed to them of the darkness, and then not of, in other words, them of the family of darkness we would be close to. There would be no place here for them because, hey, you might be able to camp out along the edges of the lands or something if there's a reason for it to do business, but otherwise, no, we wouldn't have any of that. She was talking about how this fork in the road or something's coming up, and I'm thinking, that's what was being predicted recently, and it was from more than one source. It was about someone showing up that you're going to fall in love with, and they're going to be able to finish your sentences and this, that, and yada yada. Like they're a robot that was programmed exactly for you, or a demon who's a really great actor, and they got a good suit, and my gosh, look at it, it's just as sexy as it ever was, and charming too. Or you know what? This is the prettiest thing you've ever met in your entire life, and I can imagine how they would make that. They take all from your mind the pictures of pretty faces, of the ones that you thought were beautiful or pretty, and those eyes and that kind of face, and da 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 da, blah blah blah, and design something like that for you, so that you're like, oh, it's irresistible. I'm going to believe God sent it to me because I want it. But they were talking about, I think it was Cosmic earlier, and she was saying something about how isolation has made you a threat. Well, it has made me less manipulative, or how would I say that? Less susceptible to manipulation, especially manipulation of those different sorts, which is the fairy tale story of, a Christian world where people are actually progressing as souls with the good Lord, the light, and that is an ideal world, because people they seem to actually know what they were doing. That's why they were actually able to walk around going, I'm a sinner, or I'm no good, or I'm, but for the grace of God, there go I. And that's why people did have shame, and they were ashamed of this or that or whatever vice, they couldn't get rid of, which, yes, friends, thank you for the reminders. Well, we're taking care of it. Yes. So the fame thing, well, what are we going to be famous for? Being famous? It seems that I think maybe Michael has been back on the scene, and of course Paul's never left, and there's Stephen and Roger and so many others. Of course, it's Def Leppard too, right? The question is there anybody out there who could figure out which song that was an attempt at? And of course, if you're a real Def Leppard fan, you knew what it was. But is that just because that was one of the most fun songs, or? So anyway, going back to this, fame is a prison. Well, where have I been living the last 20 years? Not much of a social life. Oh, that's right, no social life. Not much of a career. Oh, that's because you got shut down, stomped down, slowly, but yet still, the effects were the effects, right? So yeah, it's time for us to just rise, continue rising. If we became famous, I suppose that would probably help us to continue with our mission to rise all the way up, and to be that one lonely star, because hey, there's a whole bunch of other stars that have been waiting for me to show up and to say my piece and do my little shuck and jive, or dance a little jig, or sing a little song, or speak a few words of some sort or another to maybe make a difference. She was saying, oh, and the music industry is really bad because it's demonic. Oh my God. You think? Well, there's certainly, I do believe there's an Egyptian influence in a lot of it, don't you think? Like, there's a whole lot of people out there that Moses knew. He actually knew them. Up close and personal and stuff. I wouldn't doubt it. Or at least souls that were familiar to him. And probably me too. It's like, how many of them have known me? How many have I known? How many have I known consciously? Now see, that's the real deal. They knew they were knowing me, but I didn't know I was knowing them. Because, of course, they're training to be quiet and this and that and blah, 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 to be like an observer, like you're not there, but you are. And you're affected when you are. It's changing you. So what is our job? Other than to help people come along up the road. Sing a song. Up the road. Come on up the road. Come on up. Come on up. Come on. So, could we be in music? I bet we could find a place there. I bet we could get our voice to level out someplace where we were really comfortable with it and could rely on it to be the same thing tomorrow as it was yesterday, to sound like whatever we recorded. Yeah. But then, who knows? Maybe it'd be better not. So yeah, she was talking about all that stuff, and I'm thinking, hey, it is getting to be about that time. And yeah, that would make sense if they lost control spiritually and energetically. How about if we get right with you and get right beside you now? Why couldn't you before? Oh, yada yada, excuses and blah blah blah. We're not agents of Satan anymore. No, not at all. It was all of yada 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 yada. Mike and you know what? Is no. Extreme fame? Well, the way they make it sound, it's like I'd be like a combination between Michael Jackson, the Beatles, the Stones. They got a new album out. Foreigner. Just, all the big ones. It'd be like superstars. That I'd be more famous. More famous than even Taylor Swift. Oh my gosh. And you know how incredibly famous she was. But how would you even know if you were actually famous? Other than what? Looking at the damn TV that's lying to you? Showing you pictures of things? How would you ever know? Unless you filled a stadium. And at this point, now you've probably gotten to the point where you're like, how real is it what I'm looking at? Is it just a hologram? Are all these avatars? Which ones are real? Which ones are... So, what could be the bad part of fame for me? Having, not being able to really go anywhere without being recognized? I don't know where I'm going right now without being recognized. The question is, though, if, the difference would be they'd all be able to say, hey, I recognize you. Isn't that the only difference? The only difference? Hey, you, I know you. I saw your stuff. I saw blah, blah, blah. I heard da, 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 da. Isn't that the only difference? And I'd be like, oh, that's great. Do you know Jesus? Yeah, have you accepted him as your Lord and your Savior? See, if they have, then it's all good and great. If they haven't, then they're probably going to let me go. Have you ever noticed that? So fame, I don't think, would be too bad for me, no matter how famous I was. Truthfully. Because I have never been able to, go wherever I wanted to go, when I wanted to go, and enjoy life as a private individual. That was always limited and shut down. And I guess it was training so that when I became famous, being limited and shut down as to how many places you go and how, because there's all these concerns, or you don't have the money or Well, if you're famous, though, it's all done budgeted in. But then you got the fame thing to contend with. Oh, there's easy reasons why you can't just be a free spirit and get on your motorcycle and go wherever you want to go. But you could get on your motorcycle and hire, 3 or 4 guys to go with you, probably. Maybe a film crew, too. Because why do you need to be alone anyway? Since you're never really alone. And I've never really been alone. Right? So, no, fame, while it was never anything that we aspired to, I'm sure all people, whenever they're looking at famous people, because most people have at least one music or television movie star that they liken to in some way, I think. And so maybe they might have, for a few moments, contemplated what it might be like to be that person, to live their life. It seems like that'd be natural for a lot of people. And I think perhaps I've done that too. I mean, heck, I've watched Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, right? So, and of course I completely understand that it's a cage. It's a cage. But at least it's a gilded cage. This cage isn't gilded. It's been, oh my gosh, extremely uncomfortable. And I feel very starved here and hated too much, repressed. That there's elements to the environment that could be quite toxic because of the level of anger or hatred that could brew up inside of them. And that's how that works, it comes bubbling up. And it bubbles up and then it goes above all your cognition and all that. And it says, I'm going to be the spirit that's in charge and think for you now. That's what a temper is whenever you've lost your temper. That's why you don't want it. So, so fame, what? What's the drawback? Because I know if I'm famous, great wealth comes with that. And you say, well, but now you're going to be isolated. Well, I'm completely isolated and have been so isolated for the last 20 years. Hey, can you imagine that? For 20 years, you don't have friends, you don't have family, you don't have love. There's no affections. You're not getting hugs. Nothing like that. 20 years of it. Well, I think I should continue to go up. And that's what I'm saying to Helping Hands. Let's continue to go up. Because I do believe that we will get to a point very soon now where we'll have what we need and we'll be able to put her in a decent spot, to finish her recovery. And we'll move on to whatever city it is that we're supposed to be moving to. Because I know it's supposed to be a place that's a really good match for me in vibration. Good neighborhood. Where I'll feel free. In other words, unencumbered. Not put upon or being without attacks and so on. So the creative juices, boom, bam, that'll just flow since the steeple continues to grow. It's really good to be inspired. Now I wonder what I could have to rhyme with that. And maybe we'll learn to play a few chords on this and on that, and maybe on these other things too. And we'll maybe write some parts together and get a computer maybe to write the parts out for us so that it can be played by a real person and this and that and so on. And then we'll get Tom and Paul and Bob and a whole bunch of these others together in a band probably. You don't know exactly who's going to be in the band, but gee whiz, I'm thinking there's going to be a bunch of them that I like. Just great guys. Really. I know who I'd have for my bass player. You know what I'm saying? I know who I'd have for my drums. Anyway, guys, God love you and God keep you. We'll talk to you real soon.